welcome back to the Common Connected podcast. I'm your host, Janine Halloran, and on today's episode, I get a chance to speak with Giselle Shardlow, who is the founder of Kids Yoga Stories. We talk about the power of movement and mindfulness and yoga for kids, so I hope you enjoy our interview. Oh, I am so thrilled to be back at the Family Resilience Conference, and this time I'm with Giselle Shardlow. I am so excited to have her here. Giselle, if you want to just tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the work that you do.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. It's so great to hang out with you again, Janine. Talking to you like-minded, a little bit of light and fun and laughter. I mean, how else do you want to spend your time? I love it. So thanks for having me. So a little bit about some context for this conversation today. So two things, thinking about two threads. On one side, I've always worked with children. I started working at day camps. I was a figure skater, taught skating, then became an international elementary school teacher. And at the same time, I have this thread of yoga. So when I grew up in the middle of Canada, on a farm, my mom, we used to practice yoga on television back in the day, and then did it through my 20s when I used to come home, visit my mom when I was traveling and living overseas. And then I did my yoga teacher training with my husband in 2005 in Sydney, Australia, where we were living. So really I brought those passions together. And when I had one of those moments after teacher training, thinking, oh my goodness, if I'd had this ancient wisdom to integrate in the classroom, unbelievable, right? And so that kind of brought all of that together. And now, 13 years on, here we are. We've got hundreds of products, digital, physical, on our shop. We've got this amazing online community. We run everything from products and memberships and programs. I love it. And I think now, even more now, our mission holds true about helping children to self-regulate, manage their big emotions, be able to focus, also they can lead happy, healthy lives. So every morning I get up, Janine, and I love my work. I'm sure you're the same.
Well, it is true. It's sort of like I've always felt like I was meant to be a counselor, and it sparks me to see kids. It sparks me when they figure out their coping skills like right in front of me. It's like it gives me chills. I love seeing that when they can say, "Oh, I figured out how to manage my big feelings. Like I've got this. I can do this, and this is something that will work for me." And I'm so excited to talk with you because you have such expertise in yoga and mindfulness and movement. And that's really what I wanted us to really hone in on, for you to be able to share when you had that epiphany, when you were doing teacher training and doing yoga and movement. What is the benefit? What did you notice? What did you see? What did you feel? What were the things that were going on for you that really pulled it together for you about the power of yoga and movement for kids in particular?
Oh, I love that. So, okay. Look at the big picture. If you're someone listening who's looking for something they can download, you can see on the front page of our website, kidsyogastories.com. We also have a page there I can share with you that we've got research you can click through if you want to show your administration or other parents or whatever. But to share personally from my own personal journey, just a couple stories. So I've shared with you before that I was blessed with a very challenging daughter. Unexpected, the world gives us, these little people that we were not expecting, but nonetheless, it's been completely worth it. She's 13 now. And so, I'm sure we'll share at some point. I decided that, this thread of yoga and mindfulness has really saved me as a parent through this whole journey. And now the funny thing is that she doesn't want anything to do with yoga mindfulness. Let's be clear, right? She's a sassy 13-year-old, or has been, it's like something mom does. I don't want anything to do with it. However, it has this ripple effect. So even now, just the other day, I was having one of these moments. You'll notice the way I talk fast. I'm a real airy person, very creative, and I've got lots of ideas, and I'm an external thinker. So in that, my mind can get really busy. I can get my engine running. I have a lot of anxiety, energy, all that, right? It's fun stuff. And so the other day I'm trying to do all these things at once, 5 things at once. She puts her hands on my shoulders, on either side of my shoulders, and said, "Mom, take a deep breath." And then instantly, so the benefit there is, even though she wants nothing to do with it, right? There is a child helping me regulate because of all the years that I've helped her co-regulate with her. So I was able to then focus, calm my nervous system, and be able to move forward. Right. So there's a very
Yeah.
basic story. Another story, I was teacher sub. This was about a year ago. And we brought the fifth graders down to the gymnasium. We're all there having assembly with the principal. And we all were just getting seated. And we look over, and there was an elderly substitute, and she tripped and fell. And
Oh,
all the fifth graders, we stopped, and it was shocking. And we thought, oh, some kids kind of laugh, like, oh, whatever, sort of nervous laughter. And she sort of got up and then fell back down again and passed out. And then there was this feeling, like, no kidding, the shock. So the principal quickly said, take everyone back to the classroom. So of course, the children are frantic. They don't know what's going on. What happened to this woman? And we get back to the class. I went to the front of the classroom, and I drew an 8 on the front on the whiteboard. And I just started to practice the figure 8. So we have these breathing cards, for example, right? So I'm just showing this figure 8, right? So it's just literally, I was breathing while following the 8. And I was looking at the 8, and I knew that I need to regulate myself before working with the children. They came in, they sat down. Some children actually did it with me, and I kind of just modeled it. I just said, I just need to take a moment. That was, shocking. And I have big feelings. It brought up memories for me too, right? And so there's all that. So then I was able to look at the children afterwards and say, okay, let's all take a moment. Whatever you're feeling is okay. And then I was able to work with them. Some children were fine to carry on. Some wanted to talk about what happened. Some want to take a walk, right? But the benefit there is taking a deep breath. We were able to, as a class, hold that container, hold that space for whatever emotion was happening, be able to see each other for what was going on. And most importantly, I was able to serve them, right? So that's
yeah.
another quick story. Um, Another one, so that's again about, reducing your stress, calming your nervous system, being able to focus and carry on with the day. Had we not had that, I think it would have been
Yeah,
harder to carry on.
absolutely.
Right. And then just a third one, thinking about in the classroom specifically, chair yoga, right? If children were sitting for hours, right? I would just we've got some chair cards as well. I put them up on the whiteboard, and we would just move. So the benefit of being able to move, your flexibility, crossing the midline, just getting oxygen to your brain, all those kinds of things. So I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it, but yoga really is like magic, right? It comes where you want it to come. Everything's available, and now the research is proving so.
I have so many thoughts of all the things that you just explained. So I'm thrilled to think about the idea of a lot of the things that we are feeling in our bodies as, really reflective in the research now, right? Like research
Yes.
is showing that this actually is making a difference in our brains and our bodies, right? And so we can feel it, but then also to have that like sort of research-based evidence to also back that up, I think is powerful when we're working with kids. And the movement is, again, there's so much. I'm so glad you have so much research available and things that you can hand out and give to people so that they understand the power of movement when it comes to self-regulation and being able to manage big feelings, big emotions. Um, I think you brought up two really interesting points with your first two stories. So the first is like you have really used yourself as a model, right? So you used yourself as a model with your daughter. And
Mhm.
even though she's a sassy teenager, she reflects that back to you. And I had that
Mhm.
same thing happen to me during COVID. I have this very vivid memory of being in my old bedroom and having one of those moments because I too get a little like I was anxious and I was trying to do too many things at once. And my daughter, I actually think she like held my hands and she was like, you need to take a break. I was like, you're right, I do. It's so it's
Right.
just
And
like,
it brings humor. The fact that we're laughing about it, it does.
yeah,
Everything's gone in that
yeah.
moment.
Exactly. And then you're like, huh. And I've told this story like over and over again because it is such a powerful thing. Like here I am, I'm like this person who talks about coping skills all the time. I'm trying to help people when they're dealing with this unreal, like this unreal world of COVID. And my daughter's like, you need a break, woman. Like stop, like stop and think about yourself and do something fun, which is basically, she was like, you need to play a video game. You need to play a game, like you need to read a book. You need to take a break. And I was like, that is fair, and I will. And so that was really fun to be able to do. The other piece that I actually really love about what you'd said about modeling is what happened in your classroom. And to
Mm,
be able to recognize that you are like regulate yourself, even in those moments where it's tough, because that is what being a classroom teacher can be. That is what being a school counselor can be like, where you need to be able to regulate yourself to then be able to help the kids in your room, the kids in your building regulate. So you're doing that regulation as well. And then you're meeting the kids where they are. And I love that you talk about like, well, some kids needed this and some kids needed that. And then being able to meet them where they were. It's such a different way of walking through a challenging moment, right? To
mm.
then be able to just have that moment to sort of center. So I love, 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 love the power of using breath and mindfulness and yoga all together. And I think that's the other thing about yoga is that I've heard people talk about they finally figured out how to breathe when they did yoga.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, and I think back to that point you're just making, I think there's this beautiful opportunity to empathize and connect, especially in this busy world, right?
Mm,
Especially who knows what's going to go on now with AI and everything that's happening. But what
mm,
do we have at the end of the day is each other and the connection and empathy,
yes.
to actually get down, as you say, getting down to each other's level. And okay, let's back up a little bit, right? How many times I've been told, "Oh, well, you're never angry. You're a yogi. Oh, you must be super flexible. You're a yogi." I'm always the most inflexible person in the class, by the way, right? We're messy. It doesn't mean just because I practice yoga. Yoga is a lifestyle, right? So it's a thread in which I connect to a practice every single day of my life. I'm here. We're sitting this, talking today. This is how we feel right now, and who knows? Things will change and ebb and flow, and the practice comes with us, and it takes on different shapes and sizes and times, and but yeah, life is still messy. So I don't want to like project out there that, oh, look, I've got it all worked out. No. You know,
Well, and I appreciate you
Absolutely
saying
not.
that because, and I also try and say that to people so they understand like I make mistakes all the time. This is my first time living too, that I know of, right? So I'm like, I am walking through it for the first time. This is my first time being this age. This is my first time raising teenagers.
Yeah.
I am doing the best that I can, and sometimes I will make mistakes and I will give myself grace. But human life is messy.
Yes. Right.
It's just what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's really, I feel like this leads to the next question that I really want to talk about, that ability to stay focused on the present moment and the
Mm.
ability of yoga to really help us connect with mindfulness. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I love this question. So, okay, so again, backing up, thinking about what is yoga, right? And so it was invented, originated in India 5,000 years ago. And it really is a holistic system that incorporates physical postures, which is a thing that we see most of out there, in the Western world, breathing, meditation, mindfulness, character education. So there's a lot of pieces to it. Karma yoga, which is a yoga of service, so all
Hmm.
those pieces, you can pick and choose what works for you. So mindfulness fits within that umbrella of yoga. So it's a piece. One of my favorite scriptures, well, not my favorite, the main scripture that I use is called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is translation is by Alistair Shear. It's available on Amazon. It definitely is, I feel like, the most accessible. And this is something you can use in schools with parents that does not have a religious background at all. It spans across all cultures, all religions, all people everywhere, right? And it's written very prescriptive, so it does have a very left brain um, connotation. It's very prescriptive, and that's a discussion for another time. But it is helpful for us Westerners to come to like, okay, we're good at checklists, right? And so if I open it up here, that one of the first things it says is yoga is a settling of the mind into silence.
Hmm.
Yoga is a settling of the mind into silence. Nowhere does it say you have to get to a blank slate. There's a lot of myths around yoga and mindfulness, right? It's about mindfulness is about noticing your thoughts and letting them go, right? And with non-judgment.
Yeah.
So it's about with yoga, you imagine 5,000 years ago, is the saints used to sit up in the mountains, and meditate. These days, we have a hard time being with our own selves, right? Our own minds. So mindfulness is one of the ways in which we could, be in the moment, present moment. So in the classroom or as a parent, there's a lot going on. You could just stop, take a deep breath to come to this moment. What comes up for you might be a sense of gratitude, might be a sense of, adding an affirmation or noticing a sound, a color, using your senses. So that's kind of where mindfulness fits into the bigger picture of yoga. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's a great explanation. And I think it's one of those things that people sort of like lump them together, but don't really explain what that means. And I think you've done a great job of really laying the foundation of like, it's an umbrella, it's under the umbrella of yoga.
Right. And I think that, to be fair, mindfulness has been more adopted, the word mindfulness in schools, because it doesn't have the religious connotations, right? And so it's easier for some families to grasp. But at the end of the day, it's yoga, you know. But that doesn't mean that you have to at the end or say namaste or use Sanskrit or, you can keep it secular, right?
Yes.
And so if you keep it secular, keep it rooted in the principles of being honest, being fair, being content, looking after yourself, all these components, it goes across all all areas, all religions.
I love that. And it's so interesting. You've been working with kids for so long and using these practices. What would you say are some of your favorite practices to use with kids?
Okay, so let's start with the younger ones, right? So the younger ones, it's playful and thematic, usually topical. So whatever we fit things into the curriculum, or you might come into story time, whatever's happening. So we've got some posters on our website that our community love. And so that's just an easy, whatever topic you're doing, you can slap that poster up and then do the poses together. It's super easy. Children can look at it, look at the images, and just get cracking with it. There's breathing exercises we were mentioning. So there's even for little ones, that's great. We've got a number of books, and there's lots of other people who do yoga books now, but a couple of our
Yes.
favorites, Rachel's Day in the Garden and the Grateful Giraffe. But it's just about going, for example, Rachel's Day in the Garden. It takes children on a journey through what you see and do in the garden, and then there's yoga poses to match the keywords on the page. So
Oh,
there's ways that there's yoga books that you can find like that take you on a journey, or there are books that you can turn into movement. So lots of the younger books that you think of, all your famous classic books, you can just add movement to the animals, add some sounds, and that's really fun. You can practice partner yoga. So we've got some partner yoga cards, so you can practice partner yoga together, and that's a great way to create that connection, have them have more self-awareness, be thinking of others, that kind of thing. And then yoga games, so you could change all your usual games, like could be like Simon Says, and turn them to Yogi Says. And we've got a whole bunch of different games you can use, but just making it fun. It has to be fun and light, and it's not about looking like an adult yoga class. It's just about having fun with movement. Whereas with the older children, sort of more upper elementary, middle school,
hmm.
children, it's not so much thematic, more than let's practice balancing postures, or let's practice hip opening, or so they're more thematic in the way where it targets in your body.
Hmm.
And partner yoga doesn't go as well because they don't always want to be together. They don't want to be touching, but
Yep.
they love challenges. So we found in middle school, they love, who can hold this pose the longest, or, that kind of thing. So it's the competition they like. Also, mindfulness is really important. So a lot of children in that upper elementary, middle school, you can get buy-in, the teenagers as well, get buy-in more for, just taking a moment to do a body scan or listening for the sounds around you. Or I'm sure you do lots of mindfulness in your coping classes as well. So that's more for the older one. And also some chair yoga. They're definitely open to doing some transitional work and stretching and moving their bodies, and things like the breathing will target, before tests or before something big, or that you can talk to the children about conflict resolution in a deeper, meaningful way, and using that. So it just gives an idea. I could talk forever about that, but that just gives you some ideas.
No, and that's perfect. And it actually made me think, I actually had a client recently tell me about one of their teachers who does a mindful minute before they begin class.
Yes.
So it's like, it's
Yes.
very easy to sort of like integrate it in. And he's like, I love that minute. It's like amazing.
Yes. Right. Oh, the teenagers, they often say the best part of the whole yoga class, if they're going to do a proper yoga class, is Shavasana, the resting pose at the end. And
Yep.
sometimes I've heard some of our community members, when they go into a teen class, the children just want to lay down for an hour with music. Like, and that's where we are in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like that they just want to be having a safe place they can
Mhm.
just lay down. And that's great too, because what the teacher has to hold, right? There's a lot that's yoga. It's who that teacher be, it's what the space, the tuning in, the
Yeah.
connection. There's a lot goes on in that moment.
I hope you enjoyed the part of the interview that I did with Giselle. And if you'd like to hear the whole interview, please go ahead and sign up for the Family Resilience Speaker Series. That's happening over in the Coping Skills Hub. You can visit copingskillsforkids.com/resilience, and you'll be able to see not only what Giselle is speaking about, but also what my other 4 speakers in the speaker series are also chatting about. So if you want to get more information and get access to all of the talks for free, go ahead and sign up at copingskillsforkids.com/resilience. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it, feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. And as always, take a few minutes, have a little fun, and have an awesome day.